Many men suffer from trauma. They suffer from traumatic experiences that stick with them for their entire life or close to. These experiences do not just go away. They do not just vanish, unfortunately. You can think of these traumatic experiences like stabs. Yes, a stab will heal eventually, but you better believe that the after effects will still be there physically and most importantly, emotionally. The emotional part is probably, it is more painful than the physical experience because the physical experience fades within a couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of days. But the mental aspect of it, the mental affliction, will be there forever. It is pretty much the scar. This is a Tarek Talks Midnight Podcast. Sit down, relax, and enjoy. Many men go through these traumatic experiences with their relationships very early on in life. They get hurt very early in life. And yes, while we might have these content creators on YouTube that portray this super alpha, super masculine, Hercules type of persona, because we all know you can be anything you want on YouTube and social media, you better believe that they were hurt, that they were deeply scarred, that when that woman that they were with, that they loved, that they had feelings for, when she up and left, because let's be honest, most men love blindly, which will change after the traumatic experiences, which will turn this man ice cold. But the same woman that he loved blindly does something that is so inconceivable that it is a stab wound. It is like a huge katana being plunged inside of him. And this wound, it will heal after a couple of months. But the mental aspect, it is going to stick with him forever. He will never forget this traumatic experience. And this will shape him as he gets older. It is going to shape his personality. It is going to shape the way he maneuvers. And to some extent, this trauma was necessary. To some extent, this pain was necessary. But it does not take away the fact that the trauma was inflicted. And unfortunately, most men have these traumas that go undiagnosed and, worst of all, untreated. These traumas stay with these men because they go untreated. It is like a flesh wound that is open for this man's entire life. He has to walk around with it. It is going to affect the way he deals with women and just life in general. It is going to turn him stone cold. The once gentle young man, the once young man that was very much a romantic, that was very much kind-hearted, that was very much nice. And yes, this word nice gets thrown around quite frequently. But this once gentle young man turns into something that is very stone cold, very ice, very ice cold. And this is how he maneuvers through life. And these experiences that he faces are very painful. This young lady that he might have been with, that he might just had envisioned himself with for the rest of his life, you know, the old cliche type of ideals that we tend to have as kids. She might step out on this man, and he'll find out that she was doing things that were very, very horrendous, to say the least. And she was doing these things behind his back, not really caring about the outcome, not really caring about him as a human, not really caring about his feelings, because let's face it, she has all the options in the world and she can do whatever she wants in her prime. So she does what she wants, and she steps out on this man, and she deals with another man behind his back. And this is most likely the cause of his trauma. And now this young man grows up, and his whole view is skewed. Now the whole aspect of life is changed. And a lot of men can act tough. A lot of men can put up this indifferent front. But when you get right down to it, when you get right down to the root, you will see that they are very much hurt. And that is why they act the way they do. And yes, it is good for a man to be strong. It is good for a man to be somewhat emotionally unattached. But men are not robots. We are not emotionless robots walking around. A lot of young men walk around with this trauma, with this open wound. And they're ashamed to admit it, which is even worse than trying to act like some sort of superior alpha male, because these hidden traumas, these experiences, if left undiagnosed, this man will not function properly in society. His relationships will keep failing. His relationships with women and friends in general are going to be very rocky, are going to be extremely unsuccessful. That is why it's important for many men to seek help. That's why it is important for many young men to address their issues, because there's nothing weak about addressing your issues. The thing that is weak is complaining and whining and not trying to get to a solution. But nonetheless, men don't even do that because they're ashamed. And young men have to deal with these demons because it starts off as a stab. Then it's a scar. And then it turns to a full-blown demon. And now this man is perpetuating a cycle of breaking young ladies' hearts. Even though a lot of young men would agree that some of these young ladies deserve it. But nonetheless, both sides are hurting each other. And as for the man, he is creating women that are in turn monsters, because on the flip side, the same young lady who screwed him over was at one time a good girl, so to speak. Or not exactly a good girl, but she had some semblance of goodness in her. And then one of these men that were screwed over and turned stone cold in turn screw her over. Then what does she do? She traumatizes one of these gentle young men. And a vicious cycle continues. And young men, yes, you guys are traumatized. There is solutions out there. There is help. You do not need to walk around with these scars, with these wounds. You need to find out what your passion is. You need to find out what you love in life. And you need to do that passion. You need to live out that passion and chase after it relentlessly. You have to chase after it like you chased after those thoughts that meant you no good. You have to chase after it like those females that broke your heart and didn't give one shit about you. But that was you in the past. That was your foolish self. Now that you know how the real world is, now that you know how things are in this world, how some of these demons maneuver, you are better equipped. This is a lesson. So use this lesson and teach yourself, because unfortunately, a lot of young men also don't take these lessons and transform it into something great. They keep getting lectured over and over and over again, and they never learn the lesson. But wise men, they take this lesson, they learn from it, and they use it as motivation. They use it as ammunition towards their goals and their dreams. They use that hurt, they use that trauma towards their goals and their dreams, and they become unstoppable. But this is a small number of men. This is a very minority of the vast population, because the vast majority of men are walking around with a huge scar. And this is why a lot of relationships are a continuous cycle of hurt and trauma. The same thing that happened to him at first will continue to happen. He will continue to attract the wrong woman. The wrong woman will hurt him. He will hurt her, and in turn, he will meet another woman, and he's going to attract the same type of woman, and the same type of cycle happens over and over again, because he has not yet healed his scars. He's not yet healed his demons. So those demons will continue to haunt him until he learns to respect himself, until he learns to cast those demons away from his life, which will never completely go away. Because deep down in his subconscious, these demons will always be there. It's just up to him to control them and turn these demons into ammunition, turn it into motivation, turn it into respecting himself. But until he does that, he is always going to attract the same woman with the same red flags, with the same type of behavior, the same type of disrespectful behavior, and his terrible relationships with women and friends will continue to happen. Fellas, please take these traumas, take these demons, learn from them, and use them to your advantage. Thank you. Stay solid.